Hi, my name is Shamar Libuitz, and I'd like to have a short discussion about the parsha this week. Next week we'll do it interactive, but this week I'll just give a little talk. And we start the book of Vayikra this week, Leviticus, and it deals with sacrifices, korbanot. But I don't want to talk about the sacrifices. We'll have the whole book to talk about them. I want to talk about the most famous aleph in the entire Torah. It's famous because, look over here, the first word in our parsha, Vayikra, what's special about the aleph in that word? Can you see? Yes, you've noticed it's smaller than the rest of the letters around it. This is how it would look in the Torah, and perhaps even if you have a chumash at home, you can open it up and see in most of the chumashim, they actually made the letter aleph smaller. The Hebrew term is aleph ze'era. Za'ir means small. And the question is why? Why did the Masoretes, the people who decided what would be the exact vowels and the trope and the size of the letters, why did they minimize the aleph at the end of the word Vayikra? Well, what does the word Vayikra mean? And he called. God called. This is referring to God called Moses. Vayikra el Moshe. That's how our parsha begin. So why is the aleph of and God called smaller? So one of the oldest commentaries that liked to discuss these things is a rabbi by the name of Yaakov ben Asher. He lived in the 14th century and in France and then in Spain. This is a picture of him. He's known by the title of his book, Baal HaTurim. And in his commentary on the Torah, he liked to discuss these small letters, big letters, the number of times a certain word appears, usually a rare word. And so it would be natural for us to look and see what he says about this aleph. And sure enough, he has a whole nice midrash that he brings to talk about the small aleph. And so I'm going to read from his book, Baal HaTurim, on the Torah. And he says that the aleph is small because Moshe did not want the aleph there. He wanted to omit the aleph, and let's see what word would become if we omitted the aleph. If we struck down the aleph, then we would get this word. Vayikar. You see, I took off the aleph. And that's actually part of a verse that talks about when God talked to Bilam, the famous Bilam from the story of the most famous donkey in the Torah, who was hired to curse the Israelites, but then blessed them. God made his curses turn into blessings. So when God talked to him, the Torah uses the phrase, Vayikar Elohim el Bilam. Notice how similar it is to the word Vayikra. It's the same word but without the aleph. And so, drawing upon this comparison, this similarity, the Baal HaTurim says that Moshe actually wanted it to be the word Vayikar, to show that he's just like Bilam. This is Moshe's humility. This is saying, I'm not special. Yeah, there are other prophets from around the nations like Bilam, and they also get to speak to God. So don't make me any special. And God said to him, no, I want you to have an aleph, because you are special. And they argued with each other. Moses says, I don't want to be special, I'm like everybody else. God says, no, you're special. Compromise, they make the aleph smaller. So it is different than the word that appears with Bilam, but not that different, because it's almost non-existent. And so the idea that the Baal HaTurim promotes is that the universality of being close to God, being able to talk to God. Now there's a different interpretation. We fast forward a couple hundred years to the 19th century, to Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, one of the leading rabbinic authorities in Germany. And Rabbi Hirsch, in his commentary on the Torah, also draws upon the similarity to the case of Bilam to the word that appears with Bilam, but actually wants to show that they're different. And it's not surprising that he would like to emphasize how the Israel people, the Jewish people, are different than other people, because in his time, he thought that the Enlightenment and people leaving Judaism was a big problem for German Jewry. And so it's very interesting how commentaries took the problems of their time and infused their commentary with ideas that were influenced by the problems of their time. And so he explains that this actually shows how different Moshe's prophecy was from Bilam's prophecy. And he says, for this reason, there's a small aleph to allude to the lack of preparation which distinguished the prophecy of Moshe. Moshe's prophecy, God came to him and talked to him unforeseen from the start. It happened by itself. He didn't need to do any preparation. Whereas Bilam's prophecy, Vayikra Elohim, it only happened, as Rabbi Hirsch says, self-induced state of ecstasy, of spirituality. Bilam had to work hard to get to that level of talking directly to God, whereas for Moses, it came naturally. So he likes to emphasize the difference between Vayikra and Vayikra. So we have two interpretations, one emphasizing the uniqueness of Moshe's prophecy, and the older one, the Turim, actually showing the universality. And everybody can choose the interpretation that they like. I'd like to say that in these times where we're suffering from a disease that's affecting the entire world, and it really is a universal plague, a universal disease, and we can't say that we're any different than other people. We're all in this together, literally, with the whole world. And that really also shows the universality of our situation today. And we should definitely learn from other countries, but try to react better so that we can minimize the number of people infected and the number of people who are dying or are seriously ill from this disease. And let's end with something hopeful. The Rabbi Kanievsky from Israel talked about the idea of social distancing, and he said a nice idea that yes, we're not shaking hands, we're not seeing friends, but he said, every hand that we don't shake must become a phone call that we place. Every embrace that we avoid must become a verbal expression of warmth and concern. Let us hope that we can follow that and take care of people in our community. And on this note, I want to wish all a Shabbat Shalom.